It's important that we see clearly. It's important that we hear clearly. So today we're going to talk a little bit about being and doing. There's so many amazing people in our lives that we've just been, that have taught us and walked with us through our walk about being and doing. You know, Pastor Greg Moore, who's a great friend of ours, he's in our upline. Matter of fact, is who we go to for questions. He always talks about do to be to do. Are you a do to be? Remember that, Mark? Remember that? Good to see you, Mark. Good to see you hiding. Usually you're on this side, so he's hiding on that side, so I don't pick on him today. But how many times when you grew up, have you heard, or did someone ask you, what is it you want to do when you grow up? What is it you want to do? You know, my whole thing when I grew up, I was always about, okay, it's either going to be pro football, gone, you can mark that off, or a disc jockey, which I did. Football I did. Disc jockey I did. And then I was like, I grew up in Lawton, where Fort Sill was, so we always saw these soldiers around all the time. I thought, I want to be in the military sometime. Of course, my older brother, who was in the military, was like, no, you don't. I was like, yeah, I do. I think I do. So I did, and did that, check mark. But, you have all these things about what is it you want to do when you get older? And that's an important question, because you start to figure out the path that you're going to take in life. And some people don't even care about that. They've never even thought about that. When they were young, they never even thought about that. My mom and dad weren't big on that. Of course, my mom was like, listen, you're who God made you to be. And that didn't sit well with my friends who were like, yeah, right. It sounds good on Sundays, but what are you going to do? You know what I mean? And so you start to figure that out. What job am I going to have? How am I going to live my life, work, 25 to 30 years, retire, and then just sit back and relax and enjoy the rest of my life, right? I mean, most of us think that way. Am I wrong? No. Did you think that? What did you want to be growing up, Alice?
50 different things.
Okay, so my point exactly. We try and focus in on one thing. You can't do that because Rebecca wanted to be what? At one point in her life she wanted to, I'm not going to go there. But then a year later it's different, or a month later it's different, or 2 months later it's different. So what we have to understand is that what we want to do is not nearly as important as who we need to be. And I hope you get what I'm saying this morning. It's not so much about what you do, it's about who you become.
Amen.
And who you are. And that's the important thing, because the older I get, the more important that statement becomes. So Charles Swindoll once said, it's possible to do lots of things, yet be zilch as a person.
Amen.
Zilch meaning nothing,
Right.
Zero. So it's possible to do a lot of things in life, but still be nothing as a person. And you know what? And I'm being honest, I knew a lot of people like that. No character, no morals. As a person, they were nothing. But you know what? They held this title. And so you had to respect the title. But that person was nothing. You know what I mean? And that makes a lot of sense to me. Because one of the biggest challenges facing Christians today is that Christian leaders today face an identity crisis. They don't know who they are. Pastor Dwayne's got a real good teaching on identity and identity theft. If you ever get a chance to listen to that, it's really good. But Christian leaders have an identity crisis going on because we live in a world where what we do defines who we are. You know what I mean? If you're a leader of a corporation, if you're a leader of Google, there's your identity. And you know what? It tends to create who they are as a person instead of the other way around. And that's dangerous. That's very dangerous. But as Christians, as Christ followers, we can't let that happen. We can't let what we're doing dictate who we become.
Amen.
We can't do that. You know what I mean? We have to understand that as little Christians, as little Christ, people are watching us. I tell people all the time, your best testimony is something you do when you don't even open your mouth. They're watching you daily walk through, or they're watching you walk through life. How are you handling that sickness? How are you handling that divorce? How are you handling that death? How are you doing that? Listen, there's a time for grief. If there's a time to stand up, dust yourself off, and move on. And you do it with strength, and you do it with courage, and you do it with honor, and you do it with dignity. You know?
Yes.
Because we could crawl on the ground for years and let those things drag us down and keep us back, and that's exactly what the enemy wants.
That's right. That's right.
Where people watch you, see you, and go, how on this planet did you get through that like that? How did you overcome that? I know the Lord. I know the Lord. I have the Comforter inside of me. We walk with a Comforter. The Holy Spirit is so good. He's so awesome. And that's what I just love this morning, just soaking in that. Just allowing that to just permeate throughout our body. We can't be people where who we are comes last. Who we are has to come first. Not the job title, but we have to be who we are comes first and not last. All right? I hope you guys are getting that. Now listen, it doesn't mean we don't go, we don't give, we don't serve. It doesn't mean we don't do that. It's that we do all of that out of the gratitude for what God has already done for us. So if we can get that, man, if we can just get a handle on that and just go, you know what, this is who I am, and they see Jesus, we're doing it the right way. As you know, instead of being a president of a corporation or something and saying, do as I say, because I am this. And then, you know, they have no morals, they have no character, their lifestyle is so immoral. You know what I mean? So what they're doing is they're doing. They're just doing. They're spending their life doing instead of spending their life being. And you know what? They have kids. They have a spouse. They have people watching them. They have all of these people under that hierarchy in their corporation that are watching them, watching their every move. And a lot of them are aspiring, going, I want to be like them. And if it's all about their doing, then you know what? They're leading people astray. They're leading them down the wrong road. Our identity is not in what we do, but who we are as sons and daughters of Christ. Let's keep that as just the bottom line. That's who we are. Not saying you're not going to have tough times. I'm not saying things aren't just going to blow up on you. But if we know who we are, if we know what our identity is, then you know what? We can pick ourselves up. Actually, you'll also have a body around you helping you to pick you up. But here's the thing. You have to be willing to listen. You have to be willing to learn. You have to be willing to grow. You can't block everything off and say, I know better.
That's right.
Because you know what you're doing? You're doing.
Right.
You're not being. You're not being malleable. You're not being able to be, taught. And that's huge. I told you last week, if you stop learning, you stop growing. And if you stop learning, you stop leading. You are no longer a leader. To pursue God's ways is to be people of being over people of doing. So let's be people of being instead of people of doing. And I'm going to confuse you all today with the be, do, be. So get with Rebecca, she'll straighten you out. So doing versus being, what's the difference? Doing usually correlates with the way we make a living. Our careers, basically. It's what we do. Everybody asks you, what do you do? What do you do? What do you do? Well, I'm this, I'm that, I'm the other thing. And usually that's where doing just absorbs your character, your whole identity. What you do. Being, on the other hand, is much deeper. Being relates to our character. Remember how we talked about building our character? This is who we really are, or who we really should be. People get lost in this. They try to do so much. You ever hear about people that say, I'm just so burnt out. I am so worn out. I just cannot do. Listen, please hear my heart on this. There are people that do ministry. There are people that do churches. They do pastors. You see what I'm saying? That they're not being a minister. They're not being a pastor. They're doing the work, and they're putting it in because they feel like they're supposed to do that.
Right.
And that's where you get the burnout. Because when you're called into ministry, when you're called into those positions, there's a grace that comes with that. There's this unlimited supply of joy and peace. And you know what? You're going to have tough times. But are you doing that, or are you being that? Are you called to be a minister? Yeah, we're supposed to minister to everybody, right? All of us. Now, are you called to be a pastor? Or is that something that you think you need to put on your resume? And unfortunately, I know a lot of pastors that probably should not be pastors. And I'm not being mean. I'm saying they weren't called to do that. And unfortunately, that's the situation that's happened so many times, is they feel called of the Lord, which they are. We're all called. And they're like, okay, so I'm out of seminary now. I guess I need to be a pastor. Gong. Wrong answer. You are called into those positions.
Right.
But we're all called to minister. But if you're doing it and not being it, you're going to burn out. You're going to wreck your family. Your finances are going to be in shambles. And you're like, what is going on? I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing. Do you see? You hear that? Two different types of doing there. Instead of not, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to be what the Lord has called me to be.
Amen.
Being relates to our character. Doing is salary. Involvement, trophies. All the tangible things, that you can put your hands on. I was the number one salesperson, and this, you're doing that. That's what doing's associated with, right? Being is more intangible. It's the kind of people we become on the inside. That's who we're being. I'm pretty sure that Jimmy doesn't go out and hand out coats in freezing cold weather because, I got to be doing this today. I better get me some hot something to drink, and I better bundle up because I'm going to have to be doing this. No, it never happens, because on the inside, there's a person in there that's being what God made him to be, and he didn't even look at it like that. He gathers those coats, gets dressed, goes out earlier than anyone else to get there, to be able to be there on time to hand out coats to people that are freezing cold.
Right.
He doesn't have to think twice about it. It's who he is.
Amen.
And I could say that for each one of you in this room. I know you personally, and I know what you're being, and you're being what God has asked you to do. And it doesn't mean your carnal mind's not going to go, you know what? You could really be doing something that's a lot more lucrative. Believe me, it happens all the time. I am so content with what God has asked me to be. I have never felt this in my life. I've tried my whole life. I've done jobs I loved. I love jumping out of airplanes. I love that stuff. But there is nothing that compares to when I actually moved into what he had called me to be. And it's the same for you, I promise. Out of the two, being will always outdistance doing. I know people that have been in jobs 30, 35 years. Military in particular, I know this for a fact just because I was doing research on this, was the average life expectancy after retiring from the military is 8 years. And not always the case. I'm just saying that's the average, because what happens is you're so caught up in that job, doing that job, that once you stop that, it's almost like there's nothing. What am I supposed to do now? And their whole identity is in what they were doing in the military. Because we love to talk about military stories. We tell war stories, right? So we'll do that all the time. But you have to understand what you're doing right now may or may not correlate to who you were called to be. All I do know is that God blessed me with what I was doing to bring some of that stuff with me to where now it helps me for what he called me to be. He is so good. He will bless you with what you're doing. Whether you choose to do it or he calls you to do it, he will still bless you through that process, and you'll pull some of that knowledge with you to where you can use that knowledge now to do what you're called to be. It's awesome. Of course, I can tell you the max effective range of an M60 machine gun or M16. I can do all those things which are worthless, but I can flush that. But then I've got the way that I deal with people in life or death situations. People are going through life or death situations every day. And I know how to talk with them, to handle those things. He's given me just this amazing gift to be able to talk to people and know them instantly when I talk to them. I can see inside of them. I'm not reading your mail. I'm not bragging. I'm not patting your back. What I'm saying is I know you. I know you're hurting. I know there's things you need to get out to keep from festering, but you're not ready to talk about those. I understand that. I know that. But I'm there when you're ready. Our leadership team was there when you're ready. I told you that's the only thing that healed me after going through all that in Iraq, losing soldiers, doing all that. The only thing that helped me was opening my mouth. You know, people don't understand that who aren't used to talking about personal things. You know, it's oh no, you'll never get past my hello, how are you? But I tell you what, it's a whole different world once you allow the Holy Spirit to minister to you. Just to understand those things. Because you know what? Horrible things we've been through. All of us in here have been through horrible things in our life. But you know what? The blood of Jesus overcomes everything that we've ever gone through, everything we will go through. And it's our opportunity to just worship him and then just to cleanse. We're cleansed white as snow, right? Amen. Except for the part we want to hold back because God won't understand that. And I mean, people feel that way. I will never mention that again as long as I live. I'm keeping that hidden. Nobody knows that. Well, listen, God knows.
That's right.
And he's trying to help you be healed of that. I'm not talking about going in a confessional and confessing everything you do. I'm not talking about that. We confess to him our sins. His blood has wiped away all of our sins, the past, present, and future.
Right.
So we're not sin focused anymore. But we continue moving forward. Listen, guys, it's not an easy process to go from a doer to a beer. It takes a while. It takes a while to do that. But once you understand what you're doing, it helps to take little steps, which is why we're all here. We're here together. We're all in the process. I'm still taking those little steps. But I'm doing it with you. I'm doing it with my wife. I'm doing it with all of you guys where we can talk about those things. But you have to be willing to just give that stuff up for what's in store, for what's ahead of you. You're not unique. You're not unique to where that, you know what, I understand God did all this for everybody, but that won't work for me. Listen, you're not that unique. Get over yourself. You are the same as all of us. But you know what? We all love the Lord, right? We all trust the Lord. Different steps. We're at different places in that walk. Don't beat yourself up. Stop beating yourself up. You're not worse than anyone else. It's just you're probably at a different spot than someone else. That's all. But together we can walk it out. Stop feeling ashamed. Stop feeling like you're the Antichrist. Anyway, had someone say that before. I'm the Antichrist. I'm like, okay. You know, there's life and death in the tongue, right? So let's just remember that, all right? Being is where the true significance and the inspiration lies in who you are being. So, you know, being is interior. Doing is exterior. See what I'm saying?
Yes.
Who I am is inside. What I'm doing is on the outside. So hopefully we can get those in alignment to where who I am being on the inside now translate to on the outside. I don't have to say a word. People can see that I am walking with the Lord. Being is abiding and doing is serving. Being is solitude, doing is engagement. So there's just these examples that I just wrote down here to share with you because I want you to understand something. How do we understand if our being or doing is out of balance? How do we understand that? Because it's easy to become unbalanced in that area. It's easy to do more than it is to be more. It's easier to do that. I mean, how many of you make a list for what you're doing the next day? You make a whole list of, okay, I got this. I do it mentally every night. I've got to do this tomorrow. Listen, it's okay. There's an important part in that. It's just our accomplishments and our achievements weigh so much on our mind. We want to do more. I want to be seen as the one that serves the most. I want to get that monthly plaque. I want to get the free coupon for donuts every month. If I do more, I can be more. I can win more. You see what I'm saying? Isn't it funny if you think about it? It's all about doing. In school, I want to make hundreds on all my tests. When I went back to college, I didn't do well in school, which you guys have probably guessed. But I went back to college, and I made it a point. I said, I am going to make 4.0. I'm going to be on the principal's honor roll. I'm going to graduate summa cum laude. I'm going to do all of these things. I made all those goals. And you know what? I got to the very last class, an elective. Had to, get the last 3 hours. I needed one more elective. This is finishing my master's degree, right? Went back and did my bachelor, 4.0. Finished my master's, got back last class. It was Oklahoma authors. 3 books from Oklahoma authors had to read. And here's the thing, I just had to read them and give my opinion on them, right? So I did that, read them, wrote my papers over them, gave my opinion on them, turned it in, and I was done with college, done with my master's, done with all that stuff. And I got my paper back, it was a B. And I went, wait. I said, there wasn't a test. It was just for me to give my opinion on what these books were about, what I thought the authors were trying to say, how well they wrote. Did they, if I didn't like it, I could put I didn't like it. If I didn't, it gave me a B. So I got with this professor, and I said, this is my last class. I've got 3.99 with this B. I said, can you, help a brother out, And you know what he said? He said, I don't believe people should ever make a 4.0. I said, and I was trying to be an example for my kids because I had not done well in school, been through the military, did all that, went back to school, and I understood the importance of doing well. You know what I mean? Just, and so he goes, no, I'm sorry. I said, it's not an A paper. He goes, oh yeah, probably an A+ paper. I was like, he goes, but I just don't believe anyone should ever get a 4.0. And so I took it up with the dean. No avail. So I graduated with a 3.99. And you know what? I stopped for a second and I thought, you know what? What was I trying to do here? I was trying to prove. I was trying to do. And I said, I don't care what this says I'm doing. I know who I am. I know this stuff. I know what I'm doing, And so it dawned on me. I was like, I am so performance oriented right now that I don't care if you told me I was doing this wrong. I am so performance oriented that I'm just missing everything else. Blew off time with my kids. Oh, I got to study. You see what I'm saying? Well, sometimes we can put the focus on the wrong place. What's the difference in a 3.9 and a 4? What's the difference in a 3.0 and a 4.0 in the grand scheme of things? Right? What do you call a medical student that makes a 70 on the medical exam? Doctor. Whether it's a 70 or a 99, you call them doctor. They passed. We're putting the emphasis in the wrong place. We focus on accomplishments and achievements in order to feed our hunger for security, significance, satisfaction, right? In ministry productivity. We feed ourselves so that we can be better church, better minister, better pastor. Am I highlighting this? Am I speaking before so-and-so? No, I should speak before so-and-so. Am I doing it? And listen, that is not who we are. I'm telling you right now, we've had conversation after conversation. I want God's word to be spread. I want people to have an encounter with God. You can put me before lunch, after lunch. You can put me right after the bathroom break, whatever you want to do. All I'm saying is if it's an opportunity for us to reach people in the way that God uniquely made us to present his word. Because we can all present the same word here, but we all do it in a way that he created us to do it. We can reach certain people. We say all the time, 1 person or 1,000,000, I'm going to preach God's word. You know what? I believe that. I want that. However it is, you receive it best from whoever you receive it the best from, because God is trying to reach you. He's trying to get to you. He's trying to say, listen, wake up. You have such an amazing ministry ahead of you, but you know what? You're going down the wrong path. You may think like you need to do this, but it's about who you're going to be. Who are you being? Is it causing you stress and frustration? Are you wearing yourself out thinking you're doing the right thing for God? Well, I'm telling you, you're not. If it's causing your life to be just in chaos and shambles, when you're going to have stuff come up, but you're going to handle it a lot better. You're going to walk it out a lot easier. And I'm speaking from experience, folks. I just want you to understand that. The reality is that real life in Christ is countercultural.
That's right.
The things we do for the kingdom is against anything the world thinks.
That's right.
It just blows them away. Rest, solitude, dependence on God. Guess what? It makes little sense to the rest of the world. The world's perspective is backwards. What are you doing taking your kids to Beyonce concerts? What are you doing listening to that crap? Which is a biblical word. If you knew the kind of research, I was talking with Officer Nikki there this morning about some of that stuff. It's filth.
That's right.
It is filth. Beyonce says she rips pages from the Bible when it's her monthly time and uses that. Think about that. How far can you go in our faces that is just so blasphemous? Her husband, Jay-Z, talking about he's the Jehovah, quoting Bible verses instead of saying Jehovah, he's saying, this is for me, I'm the one. And our kids listening to this stuff is filth. The world's perspective is we're old-fashioned.
That's right.
Don't get me going. That's a whole different sermon.
Hallelujah.
Rest, solitude, and dependence on God. From a kingdom's perspective, guess what? That breeds life. You have to rest. I know people that will work in 40 hours a week, and after that 40 hours, they're like, oh, I'm good. I'm still going. 50, 60, 70 hours a week, and they're going, you know what? It's okay. I'm good. I'm energized. But you know what? Internally, you are burning out your adrenal glands. You are working yourself. You're just working yourself to the nub because you think you have to do more. Your boss is pushing you. Do more. Roddy, how many trucks can you park? Well, you need to do more. And you're wearing yourself out. But hear my heart on this. Listen, doing is not a bad thing necessarily. Matter of fact, it's biblical. James 1:23 through 25. I'm going to read this to you. For if anyone is a hearer of the word and not a doer, he is like a man who looks intently at his natural face in a mirror. For he looks at himself and goes away and at once forgets what he was like. But the one who looks into the perfect law, the law of liberty, and perseveres, being no hearer who forgets, but a doer who acts, he will be blessed in his doing. There is a biblical doing. But it has to align with the Word. If it's killing you, it's not God's nature. James 1:22, which is one of my favorite verses of all time, says, "Do not merely listen to the Word and so deceive yourselves. Do what it says." How simple is that? I know people that'll read the Bible, hear the Word, do it, and you know what? They don't do it. They will argue about why they're doing the other thing. They'll try to find another verse that just eliminates that one. They all have to be congruent. They all have to work together. They have to flow together. One will not X out the other one. Being and doing are scripturally related. But the biblical order is critical. They have to be in order. What we do should flow out of who we are.
Amen.
What we do should flow out of who we are. It's pretty simple, right? So if we get that right, instead of growing up, you have all this pressure on you, I have to do. I have to do. I have to do. Oh, you don't. And even as parents, we get that out of order sometime. If we teach our children, say, listen, yes, you have to do this, and here's why. This is building your character. This is building who you are. This is building good habits in your life. Instead of just saying, you need to go do this because this pays the most. Remember that? Doctors, lawyers, dentists, whatever the order was. I never. But I'm saying we get it out of order. You need to do that's going to pay you the most. It's no, I don't, listen, please. People laugh and scoff at me for joining the military, saying it's only for losers. Those people are idiots. I'm just saying that out of love because, listen, it's who you are and you learn skills. I'm so proud of our son, Casey. He works at Amazon. It's probably one job that people hate. They leave all the time, but he is learning good skills there. And he understands that's not who he is.
Right.
You know what? He's learning to be by learning these skills. I think everyone should serve in the military at least 2 years. I think they should. I think they should go. They can learn these good basic skills. They get away from home. They're put out a little bit. You know what I mean? I think it's something that people should do, and that's just my opinion. But you learn skills so that you can be all that you can be. Sorry. Anyway, I was hoping that would go over a little better. Anyway. Listen, we have to get this order correct. Because if we don't, what happens is our worth and our identity is determined by our achievements and accomplishments. Our whole worth, our whole identity is determined by our achievements and our accomplishments. How many plaques we have on the wall. Think about that. And when we stop performing in those areas, guess what? We are no longer valuable. So we stop achieving, we stop surpassing monthly quotas, we stop doing that, and guess what? Now, we're not valuable to them anymore. All right, we're going to have to let you go. Roddy, you're not parking enough trucks. Mark, you're not performing enough business. Whatever the situation is, once our achievements stop meeting the requirements of the organization, we're not valuable anymore in the world. Thank God for godly businessmen and women out there like Mark, who has godly. Mark, didn't you lead someone to the Lord in your business this past week? Anyway, I'm saying that because what a difference. You got a business owner leading people to the Lord in your business.
Amen.
And it's not a church. Wow, the world's flipping out. Well, that's a lawsuit waiting to happen. You mentioned God in the workplace? You see what I'm saying? The world is so backwards, but we get to go out. We get to do these things, and we get to minister to people while being who we're supposed to be. And at the same time, we're doing biblical doing. Does this make sense to you guys?
Yes.
It has to be in order. Being should have priority over doing. Very simple. Being should have priority over doing. So how do you know if you're out of balance? How do you know when your identity is skewed? How do you know when you just You're like, oh, because you need to check yourself. And you need to have a body around you that can help you check yourself with love. Don't go hit someone over the head with the Bible like we're talking about, but with love. You help them. So here's some questions, all right? Let me ask you one. These are to help you identify and help you reflect. What is your motivation for serving? Why are you volunteering at the church? What's your motivation for doing that? And I'm saying be honest with yourself this time. Are you really motivated because you want to be part of the kingdom? Jesus is the head servant. In this church, I'm the head servant. I get to serve you. All of our pastors here are the head servant. They get to serve you. And they do. They come in all hours. They do, all of these things. And it's not to gain notoriety. It's to serve. What is your motivation for serving? Or let me ask you this. What's your motivation for not serving? Yeah. Work too much. I'm too tired. Listen, I get it. I understand. People serve in different ways. Not always the person pushing the broom. There's people that serve behind the scenes that you'll never know about because they don't want you to know it. But they're serving, and they're doing it with the most giving heart and not expecting a thing in return. Are you looking to your work for significance and security rather than looking to God? If someone told you, hey, listen, why don't you just resign from your job and trust the Lord? What is the first thing that goes in your heart? You're like, ugh. Yeah. Fear. Now listen, that's something God would call you to do. Don't just like Andrew always says about taking medicines. Don't stop taking medicine when you're believing for healing. You need to get with the Lord on that, and the Lord will guide you through that. Listen, we have to work. The kingdom requires things. So we have to work. But what is God calling you to do? If God's been calling you to do something like pastor a church and you ignore it for so long, you'll end up teaching in high school and wanting to kill yourself. Does that sound familiar? Yes. But listen to God. Learn to hear God, trust God, and follow God. Right? Is busyness and activity robbing you of healthy relationships? So is your busyness and your activity robbing you of healthy relationships? How much time have you spent with your kids? Are you so tired when you get home, that's it, I'm out? Are your kids wearing you out? If any parent here doesn't raise your hand, I want to know. No, it takes you leaning on the Lord. And because you'll set things up in your schedule to make sure that you're resting. And rest shouldn't be the 100% of your day, or 99% of your day you're resting at 1%. You're like, oh, I got to get up and go to the bathroom. Then there's an issue. These are just questions to ask yourself and see what you're hearing back. Are you trying to fulfill every need and request in order to please people and meet their expectations? Are you so concerned with what people think about you? Are you so concerned about what people say about you that you are living your life according to what others think you're doing? You're not being. There's a point Rebecca and I had to come to where we just said, I don't care. I don't care what they think. They can say what they want. And listen, guys, there's a target right here. I hope you know this. People can say it better. They can teach it better. They can preach it better, whatever. And listen, that has nothing to do with me. That has everything to do with them.
Yeah.
That's right.
I'm rubber, you're glue. Are you de-energized, tired, and frustrated with serving and caring for people? Now, this is a big one. You deal with people so much, you're just out. You're like, I I don't ever want to see another person. I've heard people say before, ministry would be great if it weren't for the people.
Right?
I know where they're coming from, but hey, listen, I think the motivation is wrong. Because we're putting ourselves in a situation to be burnt out by people and their problems. Then you should not be dealing with people's problems if you can't deal with your own problems.
Amen.
There is a grace that God gives you for dealing with people. If you're trying to do, pastor, part of the job title, I have to do this. And you start doing it, and guess what? You're burnt out. I hate people. There's something wrong. Listen, it's okay. You don't have to counsel. You don't have to do praise and worship. You don't have to do all of the, listen, do what God has called you to do. There's a grace there. It's awesome. But you know what? Here's the other thing is other people won't see that. And they'll try, and maybe they will see it, but I'm saying they'll try and convince you what you're doing is wrong. And so there goes our prior question. You're more concerned about what other people think of you, what other people expect out of you. So if any of those questions, you understand, you get it, I'm like, it might be me. What do? So what we do is we use the biblical truth to reverse that. We always go to the Word, right? We go to the Bible. The Scriptures tell us there is nothing we can do, not one thing, to earn favor before God, since all of our own efforts fall short of His character and righteousness. You agree with that? Romans 3:23, for all have sinned and fall short of the glory of God and are justified by His grace as a gift through the redemption that is in Christ Jesus. Titus 3, verse 5 through 7 says, He saved us, not because of works done by us in righteousness, but according to His own mercy, by the washing of regeneration and renewal of the Holy Spirit, whom He poured out on us richly through Jesus Christ our Savior, so that being justified by His grace, we might become heirs according to the hope of eternal life. How do you not get excited reading these verses? Because is the Bible true?
Yes.
100%.
Yes.
All right, these are true then. None of our actions will make God love us more. Do you understand that? None of our actions will make God love us more. Nothing we say, nothing we think, nothing we'll do will make God love us less than He does. Think about that. Romans 5, 6 through 10. For while we were still weak, at the right time Christ died for the ungodly. For one will scarcely die for a righteous person, though perhaps a good person would dare even to die. But God shows His love for us in that while we were still sinners, while we were still doing this stuff, while we were still living that life, while we did that, guess what? Christ died for us. Do you get that? Do you really get that? While we were still sinners, while we were still living that life, He died for us. Listen, we weren't even born yet, and He died for us. We didn't even commit those sins, and He already died for us. Since, therefore, we have now been justified by His blood, much more shall we be saved from Him from the wrath of God. For if, while we were enemies, we were reconciled to God by the death of His Son, much more, now that we are reconciled, shall we be saved by His life. Am I who I am called to be? Think about that. It's a very simple question, but it's something you have to be honest with yourself. Keep your mind from overriding what God is trying to tell you. He goes, I want you to be this. Here's who I made you to be. It's already done. You just have to accept it. You have to understand it. You have to walk this out.